La Nueva Conquista is a story based on two contrasting perspectives occurring after the Spanish conquest in Mexico. Fray Diego de la Coruna arrives in the city of Tenochtitlan with soldiers as they witness a ritual involving human sacrifice. Topiltzin is one of the Aztecs that is at the ceremony with codices he has made in an attempt to preserve his people's culture. After the Spanish discover the codices, he is taken as a prisoner of the Spanish. After an escape that results in the injuring of Fray Diego, Topiltzin flees to his brother's home, but is then betrayed by him in exchange for gold. Topiltzin is taken to Hernan Cortes to receive sentencing for his crimes, where he encounters Isabel Montezuma, who claims to be his half-sister. After begging Cortes not to kill her brother, Cortes agrees, with the conditions of changing his name to Thomas, learning Spanish from Isabel Montezuma, and living a religious life as a monk with the guidance of Fray Diego. However, Topiltzin never gives up his native origins. At the end of the film, the clash of cultures and internal struggle pushes Topiltzin into a state of mental instability. The movie concludes with Topiltzin committing the ultimate act of defiance, which results in his death.
A connection between the film and history is the worshipping of Virgin Mary. Although the Spanish brought her image for the Aztecs to worship, they rejected it because of her physical aspect. Till the year 1530, when La Virgen de Guadalupe appeared before the peasant Juan Diego and spoke to him in his native language, Nahua, the Aztecs began to worship her, and now La Virgen de Guadalupe is a symbolic symbol in the Mexican culture. Our second connection between the film and history is Toplitzlin's brother is given money from the Spanish in exchange for Toplitzlin so that the Spanish can beat him. Toplitzlin's brother is a symbolic parallel to the betrayal of some Nahua communities, like the Tlaxcalans. The allies the Spanish were able to create with these native groups were arguably the most significant factor in their ability to conquer the Aztec Empire. Despite not seeing native allies literally fighting alongside the Spanish, one can argue this betrayal is represented by the treachery of Toplitzlin's brother. Our final connection between the film and history is the portrayal of women in the movie. Although at times accurate, can also deviate from the truth and fall into metaphorical pitfall of modern-day cultural stereotypes. For instance, the sacrifice to be a young woman who is willing and in fact honored to participate in such a manner. Often in movies we see people being forced against their will to be sacrificed alive, but this was almost always not the case. Despite accuracies such as the previous example, at times the movie depicts women behaving in stereotypical ways. The scene where Isabel is deceiving Hernan Cortes in order to save Topoztlin serves to further the stereotype that women often accomplish their goals and in general operate by subversive and underhanded means.
Two distinct perspectives are shown throughout the movie. The first is that of Fray Diego, a Catholic friar who is determined to try his best to save the souls of the savage and uncivilized natives by means of conversion to Catholicism. The other perspective we see is that of the natives, through the young man Topiltzin, whom the Spanish attempt to assimilate spiritually and culturally. He plays witness to the brutal means by which the Spanish conquer and then subjugate the native population. He is also the vessel through which we see the preservation of the native culture at an individual level. The film seems to sympathize more with the perspective of Topiltzin, because it is suggested that Fray Diego, on his deathbed, is ashamed and regrets the role he played that led Topiltzin to suffer acts of violence. The creator chooses to make Fray Diego's guilt important because he is trying to prove that the brutal and violent actions of the Spanish conquistadors were not the means by which to accomplish the mission they were sent to do. One could argue that these perspectives were chosen by the film's creator because they do well to highlight the contradictions of the parties involved. The natives are torn between assimilation and preservation of their unique culture. The Fray, and Catholicism as a whole, although trying to save the souls of the natives, find themselves accomplishing these goals through sinister means, which is in contradiction to the core principles of Christianity itself.
Some discussion questions that arose from this film were: how could the Aztecs view Catholicism positively if their aggressor were using methods of violence to convert them? What is the cause of Fray Diego's remorse? Is he upset by the way in which the conversion and assimilation of the natives took place, or is he remorseful of the cultural destruction that this process as a whole inevitably led to, regardless of the method by which it took place? Was there truly a need for war between the indigenous groups in order to realize that the real threat to their identity were the Spanish? Was the destruction of native culture inevitable, whether by means of war, disease, or cultural assimilation?
La Otra Conquista is a wonderful film that I would highly encourage anyone who hasn't seen it to watch, not only because one can appreciate it merely for its cinematic and entertainment value, but also because it provides a reasonably accurate portrayal of historic events and causes the viewer to ask thought-provoking questions regarding the issues presented in the story. It is certain to provide valuable insight into an often overlooked and underappreciated part of history that remains highly significant in Mexican culture and identity to this day.